Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Um, Dear IOB students, staff, alumni present here, and alumni who are following us through the live stream link. At least that's what we hope. Welcome to the IOB Alumni Impact Seminar, 2018 IOB Alumni Impact Seminar. Today is a very important event for the IOB since it celebrates and it showcases one of the core objectives of our institute, making a contribution to the training and the international networking of 4C development professionals. 4C referring to capable, critical, committed, and connected professionals who become effective agents of change towards the dream of inclusive, sustainable, and just world society. In this Alumni Impact Seminar, we focus on how IOB alumni have been able to make a difference. Our alumni have been able to translate and apply their own knowledge, combined with what they learned at IOB from professors and fellow students, into a genuine value added for the contested process of development. In view of the above purpose, we have launched a call for applications among all IOB alumni. Alumni could apply online to present the work they have been doing and what changes this work has brought about in society and in the lives of others. For this year's call, a total of 25 alumni found the time to apply for the Alumni Impact Award, all with very interesting impact stories. The selection committee then had a very difficult task of selecting the winners of the 2018 IOB Impact Awards. Selection was done in 3 stages. In the first round, an initial screening was done by all of our assistants and our alumni officer, Sarah de Wachter, who has put in quite some effort in this event today. In the second round, there was a second screening by a jury involving a representative of LIR UOS, who is the main sponsor of our scholarship program, and the chair of the Education Commission, additional to the assistants and the alumni officer involved in the initial screening. And in a third round, a Skype and video interview with the selected candidates concluded then the selection. Finally, 3 alumni have been nominated as representative winners of the 2018 Impact Awards. IOB has invited them today in order to present their work in this seminar for staff, students, and alumni. As you will soon experience, the work presented tackles diverse topics that are of interest to the audiences of our 3 different master programs. Each of the laureates will immediately be called to receive the award and then have the opportunity to present their work in a presentation of about 20 minutes, leaving some 10 additional minutes for questions from the audience. After the 3 presentations, we will all invite you to the poster reception upstairs, where you will all have the opportunity also where you will have the opportunity to talk to our impact champions of today, but also to have a look at the work of other alumni who are also making interesting and effective contributions to inclusive, sustainable, and just development. As you will be able to see on the posters, this ranges from work on regional integration initiatives at the African Union by Miranda Lutempo, to work on empowerment of women with disabilities in Nicaragua by Gersan Vasquez, from social health insurance for the formal and informal sector in Ethiopia by Yasmin Yusuf Idris, to renewable energy auctions in South Africa by Wikus Kruger, from the gender gap in agriculture in Kenya by Jacinta Okwaro, to community-based monitoring as a local poverty monitoring tool in the Philippines by Aleli Sobreviñas, From a Brazilian startup project by from a Brazilian startup project by 3 alumni, Chao dos Santos Lima, Fabio Becerra, and Bruna Dorrego Trocoli. I survived that. Who founded a Brazilian startup called 3PDS, which is an online forum that translates and disseminates technical and scientific information with regard to efficiency, effectiveness, and impact and sustainability of public policies. To the effective social and economic inclusion of Mexican return migrants by Eric Hernandez, and legal reforms to women in artisanal and small-scale mining in Uganda by Stella Moheki. I wish to take this opportunity to thank all of our alumni who have applied for this year's Impact Awards, as well as those who thought of applying this year but didn't do it, and even those who will apply next time. What I can certainly tell you is that with this IOB Impact Seminar, we became even more aware than ever of the important and variegated roles that our alumni play as capable, critical, connected, and committed development professionals. Finally, before starting with the award ceremony itself, I wish also to thank the University of Antwerp, and in particular the UFO Fund for Educational Innovation, which has contributed financially to make today's event possible. So now we can start with the IOB Impact Award ceremony as such. And as the first Alumni Impact winner, I want to call Pedro Inchauste to take the stand here, maybe to wait here for a moment. So Pedro Inchauste is a Bolivian IOB alumnus from the academic year 2014-2015, who is currently working as a political coordinator at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs Permanent Mission of Bolivia to the United Nations. In action over there. So Pedro will highlight that his work is focused on the discussion of conflicts that are a threat to international peace and security and how to prevent them. He will present some of the topics of discussion at the Security Council and how they work towards finding solutions to ending these conflicts. More specifically, in his capacity of political coordinator of Bolivia and acting as a chair of the UN Security Council at that time, he has drafted and submitted a resolution on mine action, which was unanimously adopted as Resolution 2365 in 2017, which is the first standalone text on mine action, calling upon all parties to armed conflicts to end immediately and definitively any indiscriminate use of explosive devices in violation of international human law, as well as to take steps to protect civilian population from the threat through education, rehabilitation, and other measures. So given the relevance and the development contribution of his work, the Selection Commission awards Pedro Inchauste with the 2018 IOB Impact Award. And of course, he didn't just get it, now he has to work. So I will immediately invite Pedro also to give his presentation. You can think about your questions.
Thank you very much, Professor. Thank you very much for the award. I think now I have to explain why you chose me for this. Thank you very much. Really an honor to be here, to be back at IOB as an alumni, and to present my work, actually. I'd like to thank everyone, also Sarah, for organizing this. He has been providing us with help during this process for presenting and to be here today in Belgium. As mentioned, I will present my work. I'm an alumnus from the year 2014-15. I'm a political scientist, and currently I'm working at the permanent mission of my country, Bolivia, to the UN. I'm based in New York, and my position is a political coordinator. And from this position, I've been working, sorry, I'm going to put my timer so I don't pass. I should have done this at the beginning. So that's I'm there at the Security Council delivering one of the statements of my delegation in one of the meetings. I really don't recall which meeting and which topic we were discussing in that photo. Well, as mentioned, I'm a political coordinator, and my role on this is to coordinate the work of my team and also to be like the liaison officer to the other missions on the United Nations, mainly the other missions working at on the Security Council. So it's through this position of political coordinators, all of the at least all of the other 15 members of the Security Council has this position, a political coordinator. So it's our job to work with each other and to be in constant communication with each other in order for the work of the Security Council to keep running. So all the communications between our countries in order to make the council continue its work will be done through the political coordinator. So we're just like a mailbox that have to deliver and send the message. So the mailbox comes to us and we have to deliver the message. And from my mission also, the information comes to us and we have to deliver it to the rest of the delegation. So as you may know, I will now get into the practical work of the Security Council. As you know, the UN was founded under three pillars. The UN Charter say that in order to maintain peace and security internationally, you have three pillars, which are human rights, peace and security, and development. These three pillars are still valid today, especially if we are focusing on one of the major challenges of our generation, which is the fulfillment of the 2030 agenda or the sustainable development goals. So in this sense, you have human rights, development, and peace and security. You may see why I'm going to speak about peace and security when we are here in a development studies institute. Well, you know that they are a very important link between each other. There cannot be development without peace, and there will be no peace without development. So they are quite closely interlinked, both of these pillars, no, and also human rights. Uh, you may think that the Security Council is in charge of dealing with development. Well, actually, this is something that is on the debate. Not all countries, and not the position of all countries will be the same on this position. The position of my delegation and also my personal position is that the Security Council should not discuss development topics, neither human rights topics. On the Security Council, we have to discuss threats to international peace and security. However, as mentioned, these three pillars are closely interlinked. So the UN bodies, you have a UN body for peace and security, you have the UN body for human rights, and you have the UN body for economic and social development, the ECOSOC. So these three bodies, along with all the UN agencies, should work in complementarity and in coordination in order to achieve our goals, which at the beginning of the formation of the UN was maintaining of international peace and security. But right now, UN is much more than that. Now, UN is focused on sustainable development, which involve all of these topics. For example, we have Objective 16, which is peace and security and strong institutions. So you can see the close correlations between these three pillars, and the Security Council should work in coordination and in correlations with other UN bodies in order to fulfill its mandate. So now that I'm in and more or less we have clear the relation between peace and security and how we deal with development, within this framework, I can say that this experience has taught me that institutionality and governance as a mean of conflict prevention is essential. This means that in societies and countries and regions where you have strong institutions and good governance, there is less probabilities to fall in conflicts, mainly violent conflicts, because I think none of our societies is exempt from conflict. However, we're going to say not we can be exempt of violent conflicts. And in the same line, institutionality and good governance are going to be key elements if we want to pass through a post-conflict situation. So we have a conflict now. Agreements agreements have been achieved. You can have a cessation of hostilities. Peace is being restored. However, to make that peace durable and sustainable in time, you need strong institutions and good governance. So, how to strengthen governance? We discuss, and we have been taught here in IOB, and we discuss this a lot. You have different areas. You have at the local level, you have national, but also, and this is where my work is more focused. You have regional and sub-regional level. For example, with a strong institution, for example, the African Union in Africa, or OAS in the Americas, or here in Europe, the European Union. This is our multilateral, important sub-regional organizations that work very closely with both the national, local level, but also with the global level. At the global level, we can say we have the UN, the only truly representative organization of all of our countries, currently with 193 members. So if we want to face global challenges, we need global solutions. Many within my presentation today, I'm going to focus on peace and security. However, you have many other challenges that are to our generation. Starting from the one I already mentioned, the fulfillment of the 2030 agenda. But within this agenda, we have the challenge of climate change, we have the challenge of migration, which currently the UN and the countries, our countries, are currently addressing these topics through the UN. Coming back to peace and security, as you may know, the role of the mandate of the Security Council is to maintain international peace and security. This is the main role of Security Council. It is composed by 15 members, 5 of them which are permanent and have a right to veto. This means they can veto any resolution they do not fit, it should be adopted. And you have 10 elected members for 2 years. Bolivia is an elected member for the term 2017-2018. So Bolivia, my country, is ending its term this 31st of December, which means my work will be over. So within the Security Council, this is mainly a deliberating body. You have, we discuss a lot. We gather, we sit together within the 15 members, and we talk. You may see that the only thing we do is to talk and to make statements and to state the obvious. What are the problems of the world and what we think should be the solution? Very easy. We say you should do this, but actually in practice it's more complicated than that. So we have plenary meetings, which is the meetings of the Security Council. We cannot say sessions because the council actually is in a continuous session. It never stops. So it can be called at any time. So we have plenary meetings, but which we met from 4 to 7 times a week, more or less between 20 to 30 meetings a month, plenary meetings. Then we have subsidiary organs, like 20 subsidiary organs, and then informal meetings. So that means that we are in meetings all the time. We don't do other things than meet each other. For any meeting, at least for any plenary meetings, this involves at least from 5 to 6 hours of work behind that meeting. So it's not a work you can do alone. And I don't do it alone, of course. My mission, which is a quite a small mission, we are composed by 10 people, which is quite small compared to the mission of the US, which is composed by more than 200 people. So when we take actions, we adopt resolutions, which are binding. These are the only binding resolutions by international law. Unfortunately, the resolution of the General Assembly, which are more democratic, I have to say, because all of our countries vote for them, are not binding. So that means countries are not enforced to implement them. However, UN Security Council resolution, they are binding. It means we have to implement them. Mainly, these resolutions, we set through this resolution peace operations. What are the peace operations? The peacekeeping operations, which I think are the most notable phase of the organization, at least on the ground. These are the blue helmets. Blue helmets, so I'm sure you have already seen them and you know the work. But you also have special political missions. The difference of these two is that the special political missions, they don't have a military or political component. They are just civilian component. While the peacekeeping operation, they have either military component or police component, but they also peacekeeping operation, they do also engage in political work. This is very important. It's not only about physically maintaining peace. They also engage in political process. And last but not least, most important, imposition of sanctions. We do adopt resolution imposing sanctions. What are the main topics of the sanctions resolutions? Are arms embargoes to countries or to regions which are currently facing violent conflict. This is quite controversial, but the idea behind this is try to avoid that in regions where you have conflicts, especially when you have armed groups, non-state armed groups, very important, they do not get access to weapons. You can also put arms embargoes to countries. Information. Travel bans, this is for people. You can impose sanctions to people either from government people or also people engaging in conflict. You normally put travel bans to people you consider they are being the spoilers of the peace process, or people you consider they are fooling conflicts. You can go also through asset freeze to these people and to companies. And I think the hardest ones are economic sanctions. You can impose economic sanctions to countries. The most notable case during these 2 years we have been in the Council in 2017 was the economic sanctions posed to the DPRK, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. In 2017, I'm sure you, when you were reading your news in the morning, North Korea has made another missile launch. North Korea in 2017 only one nuclear test. So, but whenever you were reading in your morning paper or online that North Korea had just made a test, this means we were meeting at the Security Council. Immediately when they launch a missile, okay, oh my God, again. We even went to, well, in the US, 4th of July is a holiday, and also the UN is closed because we are celebrating the host country. So we respect their national day, so we have a day off for us too. But I remember last year, okay, we were in a holiday and DPRK sent a missile. So what did he do? What did we do? Okay, we went to work and have a meeting. I remember the US ambassador was saying, okay, thank you to North Korea for ruining my holiday. Well, but to the bottom of this, these sanctions are really, really hard on North Korea. They are really uneconomic. They cannot import oil. They, they cannot export their main export good, which is steel. They cannot export coal. So this is really important and very hard. And they are also having a negative impact on the humanitarian side of the country. So this is quite also controversial. On the positive side is that this 2018 we have witnessed very important rapprochement between DPRK and the Republic of Korea, and also between the US and DPRK. So good. On a brighter note, for example, just 1 month ago, the Security Council decided to leave the sanctions regime to Eritrea. There has been a positive developments on the Horn of Africa. Ethiopia and Eritrea just signed a peace deal after decades of war. So a positive development, the council noticed the good development and the positive attitude of Eritrea. So finally, we lifted the sanctions on that country. On the mandate of the missions, which I mentioned, we have protection of civilians, which is the main topic when we are discussing about violent conflicts. I have to go faster. So we have also collaboration in electoral process, as mentioned, political work, and also strengthening institutions. Two important cases right now, for example, collaboration in electoral processes. This is very important work, for example, currently in the DRC. They will hold an election the 23rd. Now I think it has been postponed 1 week. And for example, in the Central African Republic, which is a very difficult case because you have a government that they do not control their entire territory. You have a lot of armed groups who control this territory. So they are not accountable to international community. So one of the, for example, the work in CAR is helping the restitution of the state authority and for them to have the monopoly of the use of power. Rule of law, restitution of rule of law. This has been a very important case in Haiti, for example, where the UN has helped through the Blue Helmets, helped in the restoration of rule of law, especially making the police accountable and respecting human rights. For example, during 2 months ago, there were some riots and there were some manifestations in Port-au-Prince, and they were correctly managed by the police. So you can see now this is a good impact, and that now the National Police of Haiti is fulfilling and is doing a correct work in respect of rule of law. Uh, we also deal on thematic issues. We discuss a lot on things that we consider may be uh, threats to international peace and security. We have very important topics, for example, women, peace and security, youth, peace and security, children and armed conflict. For example, in women, peace and security, this is very important because we need to make the peace process in all of these areas, from the start, from the negotiation of the peace process, but also through the implementation. This means making women participants and involved to peace process. If they are, and especially in post-conflict areas, if women are not part of peace process, it's easier that you can relapse into conflict. Non-proliferation, I mentioned, one of the most important topics, thematic topics of the Security Council, and terrorism. Uh, this is why like big topics that we discuss, but also delegations, they can propose topics either for trying to have like one meeting on the topic to discuss and to exchange views on this. For example, conflict and hunger, the relation between conflict and hunger. And for example, and my delegation brought the second one, transboundary water. During our first presidency of the Council in June 2017, we proposed the Council to discuss how we can avoid, when countries share waters, transboundary waters and watersheds, how can we avoid from lapsing into conflict when you have this competition for a resource, rather trying to make this source of where this source of shared resources with another country, make it through collaboration and cooperation between countries rather than being a source of conflict. The impact, for example, we proposed transboundary waters, and this year we also, during our second presidency in October, we proposed a debate on the role of natural resources in conflict, and my action that I will go later. On the role of natural resources in conflict, I found this one very important. Uh, we have many violent conflicts. Some of them are in the African continent. And the Security Council focused mainly on how to solve these conflicts. But sometimes we are not focusing on the root causes of conflict. And in many cases, the root causes of conflicts, you have their natural resources as a root cause of conflict. We have the loiting of natural resources. We have, for example, in East DRC, the illegal exploitation of gold, time, if I'm not mistaken, cobalt, many important resources. So we propose, and what we, my delegation, consider that we should focus on is go beyond, because this is quite an argument from especially from Western countries, that our countries, the global South, we don't have the good control. We don't manage our resources well. So since we don't manage our resources well, we are more prone to conflict and to corruption that leads to conflict. However, from our view, from a view of Bolivia, a country of the South, is that this is not only the main reason. For example, you have someone that you have illegal exploitation of minerals, for example, in the DRC. You need to sell these minerals to someone. These minerals will go to somewhere to be processed and then inserted into the global market. So we say that the council should, for example, sanction commercial enablers. Commercial enablers. This is not a term that I coined. This is already being used. So companies who trade with natural resources illegally obtain it. And in many cases, these companies are not from the global south. We know these companies are from Western countries, and they go to these areas in conflict. They buy minerals in conflict, and they put it into the global market. But also, you have to sanction financial facilitators, for example. These are financial institutions who help legitimize these benefits. So when you sell this, and also when you pay to the persons who are illegally exploiting minerals, you also need a financial system in order to legitimize these earns, these benefits. So in my opinion, this is a personal opinion, the council is not doing the right job sanctioning people, which, okay, you can do it, but the problem is that we are not sanctioning networks, and we should start sanctioning networks. That picture, by the way, is just one. I had a chance to sit on the president chair of the Security Council. They let me do it for like 10 minutes, only because my boss had to go to the bathroom during a meeting. So, okay, I'm there. And the other one, I think this is more important. On 2017, we presented a resolution on mine action. As mentioned by Professor Bastiansen, this was unanimously adopted as a resolution. I sorry, I put the number wrong. That's I put, the number of the resolution is 2365 on mine action. This is the first and standalone resolution of the Security Council on the topic on mine action. And mine action is quite a controversial topic for the not only for the Security Council but also for the UN in general, because some countries say that this should be only be dealt as a disarmament affair, and disarmament affairs and topics have another venue to be discussed, which is during the General Assembly on the First Committee. However, we did not address this as a disarmament issue because you have countries who use mines as protection, as a mean to protect their borders. So these countries will have never accepted a resolution who focus on disarmament, from mines. You have just the example, China used it, Russia, US, because they have their allied, the 30-day parallel between North Korea and South Korea is one of the most heavily dense mine areas in the world. So this country will never go along for a resolution who will focus on disarmament. However, we focus this as a danger that mines, not only mines, land mines, but also explosive remnants of war and improvised explosive devices has on the population. So that's why one of the main topics of the resolution is that we call to all parties in armed conflicts to end the indiscriminate use of mines and explosive devices, as well to take further steps to protect civilians and also to help in mine action process, which is also uh, education. So why is this linked to development? Because in a post-conflict scenario where your country is heavily contaminated by explosive devices, you cannot have development if people cannot come back to their homes. Conflicts create displaced people. After conflict, you have internally displaced people and refugees. If they refugees cannot come back to their homes and to their life, you cannot go further. You cannot come back to, for example, in the rural areas, you cannot start with agriculture again if the field is not clear and secure. You cannot rebuild basic infrastructure like water and sanitation unless it is already clear from explosive devices. So that's why this was a step forward. And I'm proud to say that my delegation put forward this meeting, and I was personally involved in the process of drafting this resolution, but also in facilitating during the negotiation of this meeting, of this resolution. To finish, I would like to say what should be the role of IOB. And for me personally, what was the role of IOB? I was able to put in practice what I learned in theory. Pretty much, even if I did a program in evaluation and management, I think I'm putting in practice all that you are teaching in governance. So, but also, for example, during the first part of the program, as you recall, probably if you're right now enrolled, For example, the importance of institutions. Institutions matter. So this is, for example, one of the topics that I really was able to implement, to put into practice. Institutions matters, and not only local and national institutions like the UN or work. It does matter, and we can set global governance through the UN. Finally, networks. You will find an IOE alumnus everywhere. Just to mention, as mentioned, we are 15 political coordinators of the 15 countries on the Security Council, and 2 of us are alumnus from IOB. Myself and my colleague, which I work almost every day, my colleague from Ethiopia. Ethiopia is also a current member from 2017-18. He's also an IOB alumnus. So you will find an IOB alumnus everywhere you are, everywhere you go, everywhere you go. So I think this is one of the most important and the role and this camaraderie that we create each other. Just because when you find each other and you say, okay, you're an alumnus of IUB, me too. This already creates an important bond that can bring our people together. For example, at the UN, if you have a special bond with this person, even if our countries have fundamental or different views, you can help your country, your delegation, bring this position closer apart. Because at the end, you can see that as a like a, not down to the earth these policies that are rather implemented at the UN, but it's all started with people. It all started by myself sitting in a cafe with another delegate talking, okay, let's discuss how we can solve our differences our countries has. So if you can create a bond, uh, this will make the job easier. And probably if we manage to bring our positions together, we'll manage to pass more, more policies and more effective ones, given the fact that really right now, these days, I think not only the UN, but multilateralism as a whole is in threat. So it is really our work as citizens of the world. It is the work of IOB as academia. It is our work to work for multilateralism and to save multilateralism that I think is really under threat at present time. Thank you very much.
Very much. Just stay here close. So as I told, there's now some time for questions from the audience. So the floor is up to you. Anybody want to ask questions? Yes, you first, and then you, and then you. Okay, you first. Maybe it's good to have. Well, we'll just take the 3 questions and then give a round of answers. Thank you. Maybe if, last one there for a moment. It's an attribution question. Okay, so
will be
Pedro.
Well, thank you very much. Actually, very important and pertinent questions. First, going through the use of veto. Yes, we during these 2 years, my country was inside the Security Council. We have faced the use of veto several times by several different delegations within the council. And as mentioned in the preview, when I was ending my presentation, that really multilateralism is under threat right now. I think during this last year, we have seen the deterioration of the work of the council as a one body. Uh, our positions are drifting apart instead of coming closer together. Uh, Topics that used to pass quite easily, unanimously by consensus, where we all agree on at least a minimum common denominator, because that's the work of the UN. You have different positions, your countries may be very different, but our work is to pass resolutions and to make policies based on the minimum common denominator we all have, minimum common denominator we can all agree and support. And I think this minimum common denominator has been shrinking during this time. There are been resolutions that should have passed by consensus during the last 2 years that no more are passing. For example, renovation of mandates of peacekeeping operations. Just to name one, for example, the mission in Haiti, the mandate was renewed in last April. The mandate passed. However, it did not receive an anonymous support. That's why, because I think we're not doing the correct amount of effort trying to bring our positions together. So the use of the veto has been used during these 2 years. I have been in the Security Council in different topics that are very controversial for some delegations. And in topics very important, for example, the question of Palestine. You know, the US changed its embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. And you may think, okay, they have the right to do this. Is your sovereignty, is your country. You can set your embassy wherever you want. Actually, you cannot. You have a resolution by the General Assembly that says the status of Jerusalem is a status that will be determined by the two parties at the end of a peace process negotiation. And until that point, it will be considered a corpus separatum. It means you cannot put your embassy there. International law says that uh, all countries not have to abstain from engaging with anything on Jerusalem. So they are violating the international law. So when you try to pass a resolution condemning this at the Security Council, a resolution like this is vetoed, doesn't pass. So you bring this resolution to the General Assembly, and it was approved. However, as mentioned, the general resolutions are not binding. This is one topic. There are other during this year regarding the Syria conflict that there has been the use of veto by the Russian delegations. But at the end, this is politics. At the end, is politics. And also, I think the problem is the politicization of the Security Council. At the end, it is a political body. Okay, I have to wrap up. It is a political body. However, in topics that we should not be politicizing, especially in humanitarian affairs, we have been doing so. So the work has been going harder. On the second question was on this, the sanctioning. I think it will be very hard for the council to focus on these major multinational companies and on major financial institutions, banks, who work and are engaged in trading and with the financial flux. We know, like the tax savings, for example. No, I think it's going to be very very hard, and we all know why. It's politics. We know who runs the world, and I think it's quite complicated that that the council start looking who's working there and what business are they doing. On the third question, finally, where was at before coming here? Actually, I was working, but not at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and I think IOB really did a boost on my career. Let's talk about networks. When I came back to Bolivia, a very close friend of mine who always helping me is an IOB alumnus. So when I come back, I was applying for an internship, I remember, at the Inter-American Development Bank. And this IOB alumnus was friend of someone working there who was looking at my profile. So he gave me a hand. So I think we can never undervalue the role of the IOB network. So I think that's where all started, and from there I was very lucky. I was lucky enough to be at the right moment, at the right time, at the good location. Because, for example, last time my country was a member of the Security Council was 1978, 1979. And the next time my country will be on the council will be luckily in 2040, 2045. So doing this job was really a privilege, a job that will end in 1 week. But it was really being in the right place at the right time. And I think really IOB really had an impact on this.
I was lucky to mention the connecting as one of the Cs. Okay, so I now want to invite our second alumni impact winner, which is Narayan Hiawali. So please come here to the stand, Narayan. So Narayan is an IOB graduate from the class of 2004. Currently, he works as the program director of the Lutheran World Relief in Nepal. And in that capacity, he manages the Transboundary Resilience Project, which strives to increase the resilience to flood-related disasters of communities in India and in Nepal. The project has provided 75,000 households with access to real-time information to cope with floods, set up 107 community development monitoring committees, and 85 cooperatives providing financial support, with at the same time also training farmers in the use of flood resilient tools. And additionally, the project also launched 2 transboundary citizen fora who play an important role in advocating with both the Nepali and the Indian government to mainstream this approach. So, Narayan, the floor is yours. Oh, you have a presentation?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, thank you. It's really the end of the year. So, yes, thank you. But it's missing in my paper, that's all right. So, but given the relevance and the development contribution of your work, Election Commission awards you with IOB Impact Award. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for my introduction and inviting me here to share my progress, share some of the projects, what I have done in my countries. So in my presentations, I will try to focus after returning from this course, what I did in my countries, where did I work, and Professor already mentioned about the project which I am here, and some of my learnings which I can share, and maybe the students. That's the things I'm doing. So I'm coming from Nepal. Hopefully you know about the Mount Everest, right? I'm from there. Hopefully you know about the birthplace of Lord Buddha. I'm from there. So that is the Nepal. So how many have you visited Nepal? One? Oh, quite few, no? So it's a beautiful country. So I urge you, I request you, if you have a good chance, please visit there. So I will be there. I will be supporting you. It's 13 years flashback. You can see the one of the group photo. At least you have to know the two person there. That is with the black jacket. That is me. And another one is very, very kind, very beautiful by heart, very wanted person. Who is that? Reed. Yeah, Reed is there in the middle with the black glasses. And another picture, myself and my wife, when we were here in 2004 and 2005, for my wife and myself. So journey after the IOB 2004 and 5, when I returned back from here, I got one offer from the European Union as a program officer. My major role was supporting to our implementing partners and also monitoring the programs, what they are doing, and also financial monitoring in part of the also the project design to the implementing part. Then I joined, after 2 years, I joined the JICA, Japan International Cooperation. In that, they had a very big project. They call it strengthening the monitoring and evaluation system in Nepal. And they had covered almost 8 ministries to strengthen their monitoring and evaluation. So here in Belgium, in IOB, I had attended the course on development evaluation and management. And that was very, very useful to me to work on that, the project. And I was a national program officer for that. Basically, what we did is we trained to the senior level government officials on monitoring evaluations, especially designing the log frame, designing the the indicators, and we also produced some of the guidelines for monitoring evaluation manuals. So we brought the government officials to the Japan and given the taught to them. So that was very useful work which I had studied here to my job. Then after I worked with the SNB, Netherlands Development Organization, as a M&E advisor. And I was working with the BICEP-ST programs, which is the biodiversity conservation programs of Ministry of Forest and Soil Conservation. So I supported to the ministry for developing the M&E system there, and also designing their result framework, and also reporting on the indicators they wanted. Then I work with TPO Nepal. This is basically they work with psychosocial and health sector, and I was the executive director for that organization, and I managed almost 100 staffs and almost 10 million. So it was a very big project, and I almost worked for 3 years on the. Then I joined the Lutheran World Relief, which is the US-based organization, and I got one offer to work as a regional M&E advisor for them. As a regional M&E advisor, I was working with the Asia and Middle East in the 7 countries, and we have a country offices in each country offices, and I was the regional M&E advisor visiting to the countries, supporting to the country offices for ensuring their M&E systems are proper, exist, and they are doing the their job what was planned in the project. So initially, I worked for 4 years as a M&E advisor for Lutheran World Relief. Then I shifted my job as a program director for India-Nepal Resilience Project, which I'm going to talk about. So before I proceed for the project, I'm really very proud to be the graduate of IOB Antwerp University in 2004 and 5. And that the knowledge and skills which I gained here was very, very useful to my professional. So Lutheran World Relief is a US-based organization. They are the humanitarian organization, and we are working in the 33 countries in the world, and we also work in the Asia and Middle East, Africa, and also the Latin. So what we do, we work in the agriculture, we work in the climate change, and we also work in the emergency operation. So these are the major themes and areas the Lutheran World Relief is working in our 43 countries. So today I'm going to talk about the Transboundary Flood Resilience Project, or some experiences about that. So why Nepal, India transboundary focus? Hopefully some of you know that in India and Nepal we have an open border. So we should not take any visa to go in that from India to Nepal, Nepal to India. And we have also culturally close, and we can speak and understand the language. At least Nepalese, they can speak the Indian language, and Indian people also in the border areas, they also understand the Nepali, but it's a little bit hard to them to talk, but they can understand what we want to in the language. So we also share in the border areas, the rivers are coming from the upstream side of China, Nepal, and that flows to the the India, and there are the 19 major river basins flowing from the north to the south, upstream to the south. And in the monsoon seasons, the lot of the peoples have flooded their lives, their livelihoods, their land. So they are the vulnerables. And the farmers, their lands and their crops have also damaged. That's why we are working on that. And the peoples, they don't have access to the financial services because they are very vulnerable, and they don't have any financial. So we are working on that, saving and credit. So if you look into the the data from 2000 to 2010, there were around 67 floods, and during that period, around 17,000 people were killed, and 230 million people were displaced over the India and Nepal, and around 19 billion economic damage in that period. So that's the reasons we are working on that area. How we started, you can see the phase-wise the project we had started in the in the 2013 and 14 we had a piloted the one project. There was only one component of having the the community-based early warning systems. So we are working in the India upstream side, and then we had to set up the the community networks. We call it the CDMCs, community-based disaster management committee, from upstream of the Nepal communities to the downstream communities of India, and they were passing the informations from upstream to downstream, so that they can get the for early alerts, and they can prepare for the better for the. And then based on that learnings, we implemented another project. We call it the Nepal India Transboundary Resilience Project. That was we added another component, that was the the livelihood component. At the beginning, we had only one component of early warning, but later we learned that early warning is only early warning is not enough. So we have to also support these peoples from the livelihood perspective. Then we added to the livelihood. We built the project based on the success of our previous. And then we have also another round of the project based on our the approach. Our government has appreciated our approach and models, and water window, they like, they are the donors of our project. They liked our approach, and they funded the another. So we got the 1 million project for 18 months, and we implemented that. So it was a part of the the learnings and building upon the successes cross border areas. And then we have been also replicating the same models to the another river basins. We started in the two river basins, but we replicated the same models to the another river basin. So currently we are working on the three river basins, and the project is still running. You can see the the Nepal map of the Nepal, and we are working in the two river basins, but we are also replicating to the another western part. We are working. This is our LWS resilience approach. The project is designed based on the resilience, and in the resilience approach, what we say is when there is the shocks and stresses, we need to increase their the three capacities. One is absorptive capacities, another one is adaptive capacities, and another one is the so then that needs to contribute to the development. The resilience is not the end. Resilience is a means to contribute to the development. So resilience, which I talked about, the three capacities, we need to build and increase their capacities on this. So our approach is like this. And we work on this, the five resilience questions. If you Google it in the, the Google, you will find the resilience, it's a buzzword. Everybody is using as a resilience. But to make, very common and practice, so if we go through these five questions, then we can know that what exactly the resilience. So because we are working with the communities should understand what does that mean for them. So this will guide us what is the resilience. This is the one of the learning tools that we use working during working with the communities and implementing partners. So how we work in our projects, there are basically the three components. One is we call it the community-based early warning systems. That is the we are trying to increase the absorptive capacities of the community. Another one is we have added the flood resilience livelihood. So that also makes the people having the additional incomes when they have a flood, or they will have some saving and credits schemes, and they can recover a bit quickly when they have savings, or emergency fund or safety net that comes under the flood resilience. And the third component, we are working with the governments, that linkage and networking. We are trying to empower the communities as the transboundary citizen forums. We call it from the we have a loose forums, coming from the representative from the India and a representative from the Nepal. That is, we call it the transboundary. And we empower them, but they do their job to advocating their the rights to their local government. So this is the approach. This is the indigenous areas in the flood. We have a flood gauge radar. If you look into the the green, up to that labels, there is no risks. But if you look into the the yellow, what if there is the the water level is on that areas, then you should be aware that okay, the flood is coming. There is a chance of needs to be very prepared for that. If the flood goes up to the red level, then the community is going to be flooded. Then all the preparations needs to be done. And similarly, on the another side, the flood resilience liability. We always needs to think about the flood resilience. Crops, paddies, sugar cans, we provide to them. These are the flood resilient varieties. And we also teach them as a technology that what they need to. So this is the community-based early warning systems. If you look into the the flood gauge here, and it gets the information in the upstream communities of Nepal, and there is another government entity. They verify this information with this level, the agency, and we have a central level agency. Once they get the confirmation, then our communities here in the downstream, they pass the information to the downstream community. Like this way, we pass the informations, the flood alerts. So in the major results till now, Professor Bastiansen already mentioned some of these, the major results we have achieved. 107, the community-based disaster management functional at the ground in the India and Nepal, and through this, the community-based early warning systems, we have been able to reduce the 48 hours to the 15 hours, because from the government to government, when it goes the information, it takes the 48 hours. But what we have established, the networks from community to community, then it takes only, they will have a more times to prepare and going to the, and the government of Nepal has really appreciated our approach, and we have a MOU, 5 years MOU with them, and they have asked us to replicate the same models to the other. That is the, and almost we have supported, we have reached the 75,000 households in India and Nepal giving this kind of support. So if you look into there, if that the information goes from the the government to government, how it goes in the government to government approach, it's coming from the the communities, community to the the in the capital of the country, Nepal, Kathmandu, and that the goes to the the Delhi, the capital of India, and the Delhi to Patna, another state, and state to the communities. It takes the long times to reach the information. But what we have done is community-based networking. So within that, the 15 hours that information is to the the communities, and the communities get more. So we have already supported the 3,000 households, and they have applied the flood resilience livelihoods. We have already formed and 85 saving and credit groups. We call it cooperatives, and they are providing the financial services in the communities. And 3,000 the households have purchased the agriculture livestock insurance. And as I already mentioned about the the advocacies, linkage, and networking transboundary citizens. So some of the evidences and the models from our learning and experiences, we have come up with this the models. What does it mean by the flood resilience communities? When we say that a flood resilience communities, then these 6 pillars needs to be in the the place. Just like a community should have early warning systems, community should have a community based disaster resolution institutions, disaster resilience infrastructures. They should have that kind of things. Safety net. When I say the safety net, is saving credit insurance schemes that are under the safety net, flood resilience livelihood, public and private. So when we have these 6 pillars, then we can say that we have a flood flood resilience communities. Sorry. So besides of this, we are also working with Yale University. They have a Yale has a, Yale Himalaya initiative. They have the development wings, and they have supported us to develop the resilience measurement. Because when we say that okay, our communities have been improved, but how we can say that, right? We should have some scientific the tools that measures the the resilience. So Yale universities, from the academic background they come, and from the development perspective we came and come up with these the tools, and we piloted it in our project. So how we did it? We did the some piloting projects in the 2 communities upstream side of the Nepal, and the 2 communities in the downstream communities of the India, and we did with the the 10% of the sample size of the communities, and we did the certified sampling with that, and the Yale University had supported to us. So we did biennial data collection pre-monsoon and post-monsoon, so that we know that how is the situations, what was the situation before the flood, and what happens after the flood. So we had that. Based on that findings, we have that resilience measurement says that we have increased the 56% of transformative capacity of the the households, and we have also increased the 18% 4% in adaptive capacities, which is preparation of the flood, and also the 26% of the for the absorptive capacity of the, and overall our project has improved 29%, 29.5%. So lesson learned, the communities have more expectations, but how much we can support, it depends. And there was some problems of the mobile networks, because we also sending the flood alert from the mobile, and we had also some problems with that. And there was also some issues from the health when the so we have also some plan that what we want to do for looking forward. Still, we are submitting some our proposal, and some of the donors have shown the interest to funding to us. So we are hopeful that we will getting the funding and replicate the models to the other river basins. Here are some of the publications we have already done. These publications, these are already in the website of Lutheran World Relief. If you are interested, I can also, show. And, you can also find these in our website. So tips to the IOB students, I have, there are a couple of the things, but what I really wants to, advise you that please try to be proactive when you are studying in the class, and try to bring your cases while you discuss, because you have an assignment, you have a group work. At that times, if you bring your organizational case and your country cases, then you will be able to learn more. So I had also done that kind of the cases in my case, and these were really very grateful and helpful. And some collaborations, as I mentioned, that I had also talked with my my organization, and there are the areas that we can do it for you as a student. If you are interested to doing the internship or action research, especially in the the on the climate change, DRR, resilience, microcredit, and smart agriculture, then you are most welcome. So we can also support to you, because we have this kind of the project in Nepal and India, and also in the regions, because before I used to work as a regional many advisor, so I can connect you with the other countries. If you are from the Indonesia, if you are from the Philippines, if you are from the Sri Lanka and the India and Nepal, then please let me know if you are interested. And if you have any things to do on this, maybe the PhD or master's thesis, then I will be very happy to do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So thank you, Narayan. Unfortunately, yeah, your questions and answers. Unfortunately, we're running very late in time. I was instructed to say that there would be questions during the poster presentation, but maybe if there's someone who has one very urgent question, we can ask Narayan to answer very quickly. Yes, one, yes. But it needs to be short.
Okay.
Try to answer.
Okay, just very briefly, if I understand your question very correctly, what I have presented, because we call it a review and a reflection consultation, the workshop. When we design the project, we do the consultation workshop with the in a participative manner with the communities. As I showed you the the some of the the flood gauge gauge that was coming from the the community. They had given that the ideas that they needs to install that flood gauge in that. So it's not we are bringing the some of the things from the outside, but we discussed with the communities, and based on their the need and their suggestion, we build. So that is the participatory process.
Don't worry, there is a reception afterwards, so you can still ask questions or elaborate further with Narayan when we are having our drinks. So thank you. So I'll now invite Khalil Bitar, which is our third and final laureate of the Alumni Impact Award 2018. And so Khalil is an IOB alumnus and former IOB Student Union president from Palestine. He graduated in 2012, and Khalil is currently based in Germany, where he works as a monitoring and evaluation manager, and where he's also completing his doctoral studies focusing on M&E systems in conflict-affected and fragile countries. After his graduation from IOB, Khalil returned home, where he worked as a monitoring and evaluation specialist. And then he founded the Palestinian Evaluation Association, helped announce the Middle East and North African Evaluation Network, and later on co-founded Eval Youth, which is a global multi-stakeholder partnership that promotes young and emerging evaluators to become future leaders in the evaluation profession. So given the development contribution of his work, the Selection Commission likes to award the 2018 IOB Alumni Impact Award. Of course, I also invite Khalil to give his presentation.
Who can count how many times in the description the word evaluation? Which one is the full screen? Or control? Oh, here. It's harder when you're here on the podium, okay? Okay, first, just a little bit about the structure. We were asked, or I was asked at least, to use 5 minutes to introduce myself, the initiatives that I was awarded the award because of working on them, and my role on that. Second is the work itself, the impact that it created, and the challenges faced. And finally, the role of IOB and how this impacted my experience. A little bit of background about me. I am from Palestine. I don't have any pictures of mountains. But I studied high school back in Hong Kong, and then I returned to Palestine, then went to the UK and studied my first degree, and then come back to Palestine, then Belgium, and came back to Palestine, and now in Germany, and not coming back to Palestine. But I showed this because, the experience I'm presenting here, yes, a lot of it from IOB, but also carrying from other institutions and other culture and other places I used to live or worked and studied there. I also work as the professor mentioned, come back to Palestine, work as a M&E officer, but also I work as an external evaluator as well. There are 3 initiatives that I really like to share with you some insights about. One about in the national level, one in the regional level, and one on the global level. First, after graduating from IOB in 2012, I went back to Palestine and really started the Palestinian Evaluation Association then. Before IOB, I did not know what is voluntary organization for professional evaluation. Indeed, they were also very new. It's basically networks for evaluators to meet together, to form a community of practice. And we didn't have it in Palestine. So the first thing when I came back, actually starting this Palestinian Evaluation Association. Also found out that there are regional evaluation associations. And the MENA one was set, but was really in its infancy. It was very new. So I worked a lot also on building the regional one. So this, the Palestinian one is more about individual membership, but then the regional one is for national associations to be under one umbrella of the regional. And finally, in 2015, the global initiative for Eval Youth it's a network for young and emerging evaluators to build their capacities and enhance their skills to be members of the evaluation community. I will talk a little bit about each of these initiatives and their impact, and then just provide maybe one example of projects they work on. First, with the Palestinian Evaluation Association. So by itself, one of the things that I think it's important to highlight that, in a context where it's difficult to establish civil society organization, in 2013 we established this association, registered it, had the recognition within the country, and also institutionalize this organization, which is very important. Started with 2, 3 people talking about it and ended up with 50 plus members, if not more. Also, it has a lot of partnerships outside the associations, in the government, in the parliament, with other civil society organizations. And finally, also it has a lot strong role in the regional association. It's all really started with one person, that myself, that I thought about it and went spoke with like-minded people, and then it became a network that has monthly meetings, a lot of projects, and a lot of initiatives. I will highlight one website that is actually was a project between the Palestinian Evaluation Association, the Jordanian Evaluation Association, and supported by the International Organization for Cooperation in Evaluation and Eval Partners. It's a partnership between the UN agencies and IOCE, the network of the Evaluation Association. This website is meant to have, usually in evaluation, if you study them as well, you will notice that not a lot of evaluations are published. This is meant to be a database for all evaluations that people can share. Not a great success now. You will feel that not a lot of people use it, but still it's a structure there, and we're hoping to work on it more. Second, I just speak about the Middle East and North Africa, MENA, Evaluation Association. It grew significantly. Now it has 5 plus members in mailing list and people who attend conferences, but also from 2 associations, Evaluation Association, to 8 associations. It also has an annual conference, which I help organize every year in the organization committee. And every year it happens in different country in the region in the MENA. It has partnership with most UN agencies, and we receive funding about $100,000 every year to organize the conference. It gives a lot of opportunity for young evaluators, but also more seasoned evaluators to participate, but also people who are interested in general in the development issues, not necessarily only for evaluators. I mentioned Eval Partners, that is like the highest body in governing evaluation and supporting evaluation. And Eval MENA is actually, the founder is head of this Eval partner, and it has a strong voice. And in terms of initiatives and projects, this is one example of a project that was supported by Eval Partners, but also UN Women, where we have roundtables on equity focus and gender responsive evaluation. And these are very important for the SDGs. I'm sure a few of you, if not many, came across this. And the idea was to hold 6 national roundtables, 6 countries, when you have voluntary organizations for evaluation there, parliamentarians, and governments. And in the end, to develop a white paper on EFGR, equity focus and gender responsive approach, for the SDG monitoring and evaluation. This is one project. And finally, for Evaluate. And this is maybe especially for some of you who are interested in evaluation, it might be interesting. This network, it's really working a lot with young and emerging evaluators who are interested in evaluation in general. And it's established in Nepal, in Kathmandu in 2015 during the 2nd Global Evaluation Forum. And it grew now, it has an audience of 20,000 plus members. It depends really on volunteers. Maybe the budget annually is about 100,000, but if you count volunteer time, it may be a lot more than this. It has different task forces that are working on different important issues that concern young and emerging evaluators. But the reach is also with UN agencies, for example. Finally, it sits on the table. And myself, I sit on the table for Eval Partners. So we participate as young evaluators in the most important decisions that relate how to allocate funding for evaluation. What are the global evaluation agenda? What are the items that we have to work on? And to highlight for Evaluate, I will highlight actually 2 initiatives. One is Evaluate International Mentoring Program. And this is a virtual mentoring program that we designed by young and emerging evaluators for young and emerging evaluators. We received 852 applications from 114 countries, only to select in the end 50 pairs, 100 individuals, mentees and 50 members. So, and there were great engagement in this program, but also it was designed, this again to say, the whole modules were designed by young and emerging evaluators and involve evaluators from all around the globe. And the other thing is, it's very difficult with the UN system to have an internship, especially paid internship. We had an agreement with UN volunteers, UNFPA, but also 8 other associations, and we developed something called UN Volunteers M&E Program for Young Evaluators. For that, we received 1,829 applications from 144 countries. And the program is still rolling, and you see some agencies already implemented and some in the pipeline, which is, I think it's very important. So also, I have to highlight in terms of doing these activities, maybe just about speaking about when you have passion for something and you work on it. As byproduct, you have 2 things that at least I will focus. I also write about these initiatives. I don't end there just participating as an activist in this, and I see myself as an activist, but also writing. So I do also my research on conflict-affected countries, national monitoring conflict-affected countries. So I write about these initiatives, but also about my research, and I had the chance, I was lucky to publish in really some of the best journal articles for evaluation, but also some blogs, So it's very important to try to have your voice heard. And also participating in most of the major, that's too much of me in the photos, but the idea is that I had the chance also to participate, whether presenting my research or also about Evaluate or Palestinian Evaluation Association in major conferences. If you like that, then maybe get involved in some networks like this, because you will really have a lot of opportunities to share your opinions, to learn new things from everywhere. I mean, maybe you see all of these initiatives, and I will share from myself. Something I just presented the other day, and I really like to, this is in a way shows what my philosophy when I work on this. I think every evaluator has the responsibility to fight for social justice, for equity, whenever she or he works, backed with data, evidence, evaluation tools, any critical event he or she sees the work. It's a responsibility more than it's a privilege. Maybe because you have privilege, you have this responsibility. And everybody in the room has the same privilege and responsibility, in my view. Sometimes when you come back home after the degree, the things you learn are also to be heavy on your shoulder, how to implement them for your own people and how you going to benefit others from them. Some challenges. Let's highlight 3, although I can put more. There's only 24 hours a day and 7 days a week. This is a challenge. I'm sure many of you relate to this very well. And the other thing that institutionalization of these are difficult. When you start something, you have the founder syndrome. You want to continue be president. I mentioned, the professors mentioned the word, I was president of the student union here, so I think I went back to Palestine to establish the Palestinian Evaluation Association and be president because I like Mr. President. So, and also funding continues to be always a challenge, but surprisingly enough, all the 3 initiatives I mentioned, they are very well funded because we have good networks and working with many people from different IOB experience. So the first thing to highlight for me was working in multicultural and multinational groups. And basically, not to say it in an official way, but really the friendship that you form with people that stay a lot after this experience. Not with everybody, but you have your group that you connect with and learn from when you're here, but also when you connect after. Also, the leadership opportunities. So you work in a group and everything, but also I think my colleagues want to be extroverted. I am introverted, and I think it's fine to be introverted, but also a leader or working with the groups. Sometimes working on your own and developing your own leadership skills is also very important. The teaching and learning here, I was envying some of my colleagues who were studying in the UK then. They were not very busy during their we were very busy. Reading, writing the whole time, but now I appreciate it. I think we had a lot to read, maybe sometimes a little bit too much. But it was important. 1 year you learn about all of these aspects that maybe you didn't read about before, and then you go back, you are so overwhelmed with so many things, you read less. And writing is very important skill when you start working on these things. When you write proposals, when you communicate with others, the fact that you're writing a lot here, the term papers, the thesis at the same time and all of this. Believe me, it's gonna be very useful for you. And stress is part of it. I have good news for you. What you're stressed now about is so much less than what you will be stressed about later. So don't think it's the ultimate stress. Maybe some of you already worked before and were stressed, but it would be nice to say no. Now later it will be less stressful, but no, it will be more. So just live with it. And thank you, IB, for the chance to come here and meet all the colleagues here. I really enjoyed coming here, and for myself also just reflecting, walking in Antwerp or entering IOB, it was really important experience by itself. And please, if you have any questions or you're invited to send an email anytime or get in touch or anything. Thank you.
So,
Question now or later?
thank you. So it's the same procedure. If anybody has a very urgent question, yes, there is one. Yes.
Yeah. Do you mind me asking where you're from, Philippines? Yeah. So, for example, in Philippines, I know that Romeo Santos, he is the head of the evaluation as here, and I don't think it's a government organization. But you have also, yeah, yeah. So, it's good to for me, of course, it is very important for hobby for volunteer organization not to be a government decision. Point is to challenge sometimes government policy as an evaluator and everything. But first thing you can do when you graduate or even now to get in touch and see IOC, they have really nice map with all the VOBs there and to see which in your country if you have it or not. And then if you don't have it, to go and maybe work with like-minded people and establish one. Because even in the IOC, I think the government wants they don't take them as the official VOBs.
Thank you very much. So after these very stimulating and motivating presentations, I'll now invite you to the poster reception stairs. Don't forget to look at the posters where you will find more information about other alumni and their impact in society. So thank you all for being here. Congratulations once again. I would say enjoy the reception upstairs. Thank you all.
Just take my bag. And I think we had nice presentation, three of us. I hope they liked it. Hi.
And I get excited when this is, I think, the friendship. Is it really possible? Because, but after that,
Yeah, when I say the collaboration, really the possibility. In my project, I want to be But if you feel that come yes, sure. Start with and maybe I know